Philippines recently played host to an international forum on the use of nuclear power. Senior government officials, industry experts, and even the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency met to discuss the potential development of nuclear energy in the Philippines. Among the issues discussed was the feasibility of finally activating the long mothballed Bataan Nuclear Power Plant, or the BNPP. Future Perfect joined a group of forum participants who visited the BNPP to get a first-hand look at the technology that the Philippines is paying for but has never actually used.
It was supposed to be the answer to the Philippines' quest for cheap, reliable power, but instead it turned into a very costly drain on the country's resources. In the 1970s, at the height of the oil crisis, then-President Marcos dreamed of sidestepping the skyrocketing price of oil by stepping up a nuclear power plant. The reasoning then was that nuclear power was cheaper compared to electricity generated from burning fossil fuels. It is still the primary reason being given now. Former Pangasinan Representative Marco Cojuangco says nuclear power can be sold at around 2 pesos and 50 centavos per kilowatt hour versus Napocor's current rate of 4.50 to 5 pesos per kilowatt hour. Cojuangco, the most vocal supporter of reviving the BNPP, says that if the go signal is given, the BNPP can be rehabilitated quickly and at a fraction of the cost of a new plant.
Ang BNPP po $1 billion. One-fifth the cost of a new nuclear plant. Tatakbo po siya within 3 to 4 years versus 8 to 12 years sa bagong planta. So, within po itong termino nitong administrasyon na ito, kung sakaling titignan nila yung BNPP, maaaring tumakbo po ito at maging solusyon ito sa ating energy situation.
The Bataan nuclear power plant is capable of generating 621 megawatts of electricity. It can easily fill up the 300 megawatt deficiency in the Luzon grid projected next year by the Department of Energy. But the earliest it can go online is 3 to 4 years. By then, 2,700 megawatts will already be added to the grid from the new non-nuclear power stations. It will cost an estimated $1 billion just to determine if the plant is still safe to operate. This is the main stumbling block to the plant's revival. Anti-BNPP groups claim that the plant is defective and that it is a nuclear accident waiting to happen. But its defenders insist it is one of the safest facilities on Earth.
Data would provide you that this is one of the safest. Meron siyang 3 sister power plant in the world. Yung nasa Korea, sa Crisco sa Slovenia, ang Grawan sa Brazil. Parehong-pareho yun. They have operated since then without any accident.
Napocor says additional upgrades during the 1980s have made the BNPP even safer.
Nagdagdag tayo additional mga $900 million kasi yun ang nirecommend ng Puno Commission. So I would say that this is one of the safest.
Many of the 80s era equipment in the plant may need to be replaced before it can be cleared to operate. Some of them, including the creepy Dr. Strangelove hotline to the president, are already sorely out of date. Meanwhile, Cojuangco is so convinced of the safeness of the nuclear power plant that he even swam in a river where a nuclear power plant in Switzerland was discharging its coolant water and even drank the water from it. But while he continues to make glowing arguments for the reopening of the BNPP, the future of nuclear energy in the Philippines remains uncertain.
So what was achieved at the recent Nuclear Energy Forum, and is their hope for the country's biggest white elephant, the Bataan Nuclear Power Plant? And we're joined in the studio by 2 of the participants to last week's forum, Pangasinan Representative Kimi Cojuangco, the author of the Nuclear Energy Bill, and Dr. Carlos Arcilla of the National Institute of Geological Sciences of the University of the Philippines. Congresswoman Cojuangco and Dr. Arcilla, thank you very much for coming to the show.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If we close the lights, should you be glowing in the dark?
Definitely not.
Definitely not, obviously. That's where the old protest slogan originated. Hell no, we won't glow. You still remember that? Yeah. A lot of people, even back then in the 70s, were just so violently against the use of nuclear power. And in the Philippines, it's even not any different. A lot of people are still afraid of nuclear power because, I mean, it's something that people hear horror stories about, especially because of Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, if people even still remember that. But you and your husband, former Congressman Cojuangco, obviously don't see any reason to fear nuclear energy. Why is that?
Well, first and foremost, let me tell you that I am not an expert.
All right. First, we have to clarify.
I'm not
You
an
are not a
expert.
scientist.
I am not a scientist.
All right.
But as my husband, although he's not a scientist, I would say that he's quite knowledgeable on the topic. So, having listened to him and realizing the problems that are besetting our country, I decided that if elected Congresswoman, I would continue his, I would say,
his advocacy,
but from a different point of view, from a layman's point of view, as someone who is not an expert.
All right. And why, as a layman, would you be convinced that nuclear power, first of all, is safe and that nuclear power is cost-efficient to use?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me start by telling you, after observing the deliberations in the 14th Congress, I realized that my husband, thinking that ordinary people would be able to understand what he was talking about, wanted to just go for the rehabilitation and then commissioning.
Yeah.
Okay, so after watching all of that, I realized that probably it would be wiser to have it validated by experts.
Sure.
Because even if Kaloy, Mr. Arcilla tells you that it's safe, even if Congressman Mark Cojuangco can argue and deliberate in Congress for hours saying it's safe, nobody's going to believe us.
Yes, because there are a lot of other strong arguments against having nuclear plants set up in the Philippines. So, I mean, both sides will have a never-ending debate. But from your point of view, what convinced you?
Yeah. So, actually, knowing that my word, his word, is not going to be good enough, I felt that, and I understand how the public feels, because I would be afraid too. But knowing that there's an International Atomic Energy Commission that could oversee, if ever we recommission it, oversee the plant's operation, and knowing that it can be validated by experts in the field, let's seek their validation. So that's what my bill first and foremostly wants to do. I would like to get a validation from people in the know.
Sure.
That way it will allay the fears, and hopefully public acceptability would be present. And number two, we are in an age right now where everybody's going nuclear. But I'm not saying we should go because everybody's doing it.
Yeah, because you're going to sound like it's just a bandwagon effect, right?
No. More importantly is, our country is at a standstill economically. Why? One of the major reasons, and I think it is the major reason, is because our electric power rates are is the second highest
That's right.
in the world. So how do we expect to lift ourselves economically and invite investors when our power is so expensive? It's just so expensive. Now, third, I'm a mother. I have children. I want to see a good future for my kids.
How old are your kids?
25, 24, and 21.
Okay.
So the future is really for them. And
That's surprising.
really,
You have kids that old already.
thank you. So
I would have asked you to date my kid, but you're already married.
So what I'm really trying to say is, let's move on. Let's move forward. Let's have an open mind. Let's get the opinions of experts. And then from then, we decide, do we want to run it or do we want to shaft it?
So did you get all the experts you needed to convince you? Did you get them to convince you?
I did my own research.